Hey, I want to talk about the number nine today. I have had a semi-obsession, love-hate relationship with the number nine for some time now, trying to extract its superpowers. The love part of it is that it brings about reward, a kind of open-heartedness that just engulfs the world, lightening of the load. But the hate relationship with the number nine is endings. Man, I know so many of us struggle with endings. The ending seems to be more of an enemy than a friend. There's a number in numerology called your lineage number, and it's where you take your last name and you add it down to its number. And it gives you an idea of sort of where you came from and what the purposes of your family unit. And my maiden name is Anastasio, and it adds down to the number nine. And this is hilarious because there's an inside joke among friends and family that Anastasios dwell. We have a tendency to dwell on things and not let them die. And like literally and metaphorically. So if somebody will say something and it hurts our feelings, we'll like just sink into it and just simmer in it, and then 8 hours later we'll bring it up, right? So recently, I have developed a love affair with the number nine, with endings, and with death. A love affair with the Grim Reaper. Like, him and I are best friends now. And the reason why is because I discovered that death is one of the most thrilling gifts that you can use in your everyday spiritual practice. Because death enables you to let a thought or a mood die. Oh, it's so powerful. And what my experience has been is that this has huge implications on your life, on success, on relationships and finances and health. Every single category of your life is affected by your either embrace of the number nine in death or your resistance to it. Because if you attach and linger on a thought long enough, it becomes a mood. And if you let that mood linger, it becomes a temperament. And then if you let that linger, it becomes your very personality. So this is important stuff. So I've been training myself in the superpower of the nine, and I've been having these really mystical, wondrous moments in my day-to-day life. And now they're becoming one of my favorite little tricks and supernatural spells to inject into my day. And what it is that when I notice a negative thought, something destructive, something that's just bringing me down, when I find myself in a mood, that I let it die. And my threshold for these things is becoming slimmer and slimmer. So what used to take me weeks or months to process and release is now taking me a day, sometimes even just minutes. Now, one of the ways that I was able to start to do this was learning a principle that I found in Jewish mysticism. In Judaism, they have a version of hell called Gehinnom. And their version of hell is temporary. And they believed that Gehinnom was the highest kindness to the human soul, because it was a temporary place that we go to get spiritual rehabilitation, to cleanse and purge any impurities that are not in alignment with who we really are off of us. And this blew my mind, because what it enabled me to do is it enabled me to embrace those moments of contrast, to embrace those moments where the Grim Reaper showed up, to celebrate when I felt that I was out of alignment, where I've lost that sense of self. Because ultimately, hell, which shows up sometimes on a day-to-day basis, is an opportunity to let something die that you are not. So I'm in a restaurant with a family member, and I find that I'm in a bad mood. And sometimes we can't catch that thought early enough to nip it. So I'm there. I'm full on in this negative mood. And I'm listening to my companion talk, and he was having a really bad day. And so then my mood is getting worse. And it's like I'm going in that downward spiral, right? And then I remember this concept of Gehinnom. And I remember the 9 and the Anastasio dwelling. And I think, can I let this moment that just passed a second ago, this perspective, this affinity of paying attention to something, can I let it die? And just by asking myself that question, I get an idea. I decide that I am going to visualize who I want to be. And so I get in my mind's eye this character in a movie that is absolutely radiant. And I imagine that I am emitting this light. And it starts out like really close to my body. And then it gets bigger and bigger, and it encompasses the table. And then it expands out into the whole room. And I just am smiling and I'm glowing as I'm witnessing and listening to the person I'm with. And the first magical thing that happened from this is immediately the moment died. And I could feel the conversation shifting without me saying anything. The person I was with started to just slow down. The words started to change. It was amazing. But here's the real kicker. The waitress, I see her coming over to take our order. And she comes over with her pad, and she stops herself and she looks at me in my eyes and she goes, "Well, look at you. Aren't you emitting tons of bright light?" And I just was like, it was one of those magical, supernatural, validating moments, right? And I just, when I tell her my order, I'm smiling and I'm like giddy, and she walks away and the guy I'm with is like, "What was that about?" And I was like, I just visualized what she just said. It was just unbelievable. So here's the thing, you guys. Embracing death and letting things die is one of the most thrilling things to master. And to know that you don't have to be afraid when you feel disconnected, when you feel the negativity, when you feel that something's going wrong. You don't have to be afraid of that at all. And that you can use it as a moment to collect data about who you are not. Because that's all that Gehinnom is. That's all that hell is. That's all that negativity is. It's a moment when you're confronting who you are not. And it's time to visualize and to admit who you actually are. All right, guys, that is my story of the day, and I will talk with you again soon. Bye.